Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hidden Gems. Today, I'm really excited to have here with us Ethan Francis from Chainstack. Now, if you haven't heard of Chainstack, Chainstack is an awesome JSON RPC platform as well as a data provider for all kinds of toolings for Ethereum, Polygon, and across 11 chains or 12 chains. Am I right, Ethan?
I think we're at about 23 blockchains at the moment.
Okay, awesome. Without further ado, Ethan, maybe you could introduce yourself a little bit and maybe give us a bit of background about Chainstack for the people who are not familiar with Chainstack.
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Ethan. I go by the alias online Tabasco. That's what you'll see me as on Twitter and stuff like that. I've been in the Web3 space for about 3 years now. Originally came into the space 2020, 2021, that kind of time in which that bull run was happening. Started development and then joined Chainstack as a developer relations manager in 2022. And now I lead developer relations for Chainstack here in 2023. We're really excited to have this conversation today. Of course, we recently integrated Covalent into our platform. So that's what we'll be talking about, a lot to talk about in that regard in terms of what it means for developers and how developers can leverage that. But in general, the way that we usually describe ourselves is the leading suite of services connecting developers with Web3 infrastructure. So, of course, the largest of the services, like you mentioned, is like JSON RPCs. So we do very performant and customizable nodes across 23 different blockchains. So pretty much anything you can imagine. Solana, Ethereum. We even do like permission blockchains like Hyperledger Fabric and Core and stuff like that. We have our node infrastructure, we have subgraph infrastructure, which we recently released for like very specific data indexing. And then, of course, we have some IPFS stuff. And most recently, we have our Chainstack Marketplace integration with Covalent, which is another tool in our suite of developer products, enabling developers to build really exciting and innovative applications. As an organization, really what our goal is to provide services and tools, right? Whether it's our own tools or aggregating tools from companies like Covalent. Our mission here is to enable innovation within the Web3 space and give developers what they need to create applications that'll power the future of Web3.
Amazing, amazing. And yeah, like Ethan mentioned, the one big reason why we're doing this webinar today is because recently Covalent has integrated Chainstack, which means that on top of the amazing suite of supernodes and JSON RPC services Chainstack offers, you can now directly access the Covalent API through the Chainstack platform. Now, I understand that probably some JSON RPC users from the Chainstack platform might not be familiar with Covalent. So I'm just going to go ahead and give a brief overview of what Covalent is, and then maybe Ethan can go on and tell us more about certain initiatives within Chainstack and also take us through the tech stack a little bit. Covalent is something like an aggregated data service. Like it is an API which allows you access to on-chain data. But for certain use cases, we found that it is pretty difficult to build with the current tooling available. Like, for instance, if you want to get all the wallet balances, right? ERC20 tokens as well as NFTs, you have to make lots and lots of calls using the current tools available, which is why Covalent came in and kind of like aggregated the data into like a database, and we enable the developers to use one API call to, for instance, get all your token balances for an address. You can use one API call to get all the transactions for an address as well. We have also got NFT kind of like endpoints as well as DEX endpoints, which can be used for even GameFi use cases and stuff like that. So that's a brief overview of Covalent API. Of course, I invite all the developers to just get your hands dirty and try it out. The API key is free. You can now even try it out on Chainstack Marketplace. Nothing better than just going in there and playing with it yourself to understand really what is this suite of data that Covalent offers. What is unique about the Chainstack like tech stack?
Yeah, I mean, I always love getting this question. And as developer relations lead, I attend a lot of Twitter spaces and different, kind of podcasts like this where we talk about that. And the answer that I found is most effective is kind of breaking it down into three components. Right. So, over the past few years, as we've been kind of creating Chainstack and building out the Chainstack tech stack, we've identified a few things that make infrastructure powerful for developers. These three things are pricing, performance, and customizability, right? These are the three things that really make a difference for developers.
Yep.
And as we were looking throughout the industry at different infrastructure providers and different developer platforms, we kind of identified a few issues, right? Number one is that a lot of these platforms are really expensive, especially once you start getting into like real DApp usage, right? So like millions of requests and stuff like that. It got ridiculously expensive very quickly, and a lot of the time it was like hard to predict how expensive it would be. And to kind of go in with that, it was expensive, but it wasn't expensive to the point where it was like providing, like the price didn't justify the performance that you're getting, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So you're paying a lot for infrastructure that might have not been up to par with the price that you're paying in terms of performance. And then on top of this, we noticed that a lot of these things were inflexible, right? So like maybe they didn't have a lot of customization options. Maybe they weren't super transparent in terms of where they're deploying the node and on what cloud provider. So taking these three kind of problem areas, we wanted to focus on building a solution that focused on these three things. So number one, with affordability, this has been a really big case for us, right? Because whether you're an individual developer spending $100 a month on infrastructure for your small DApp, right? Or whether you are a massive organization like CoinGecko that's spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on infrastructure, saved money is saved money, right? And spending too much for infrastructure that isn't great is something that nobody wants to do, right? The less money that you're spending on infrastructure, and I know that Covalent, agrees with us in terms of this mission, but spending less money and time on this backend infrastructure frees up more money and time for product development and pushing the space forward, right? If all of our innovators are stuck on like spending all their money on infrastructure and spending all their time wrestling with infrastructure, there's not going to be a lot of time to actually create exciting applications. So what we've done with pricing and with affordability is that we actually recently released a big report comparing Chainstack with other large providers like QuickNode and Alchemy and stuff.
Nice.
And what we found was that Chainstack is usually about 66% cheaper than other providers, which is a huge difference in price, especially once you start getting into that enterprise level. I mean, you can just imagine for an organization like saving 66% on infrastructure costs without sacrificing performance can be the difference between like shipping a new product this year and next year. I mean, like the amount of
Yep.
resources that opens up is huge. And even in some cases, like once you start getting into certain use cases like DeFi tools and stuff like that, it can even climb up to like 86% cheaper, which is huge.
Wow.
And this is something that we're really passionate about providing developers, right? With a solution that is affordable at its beginning, that doesn't break the bank when you use it, that you can use and have very predictable and transparent pricing. There's no hidden costs. All of our calls and all of our infrastructure requests are measured equally, which means that you can very easily predict what your pricing will be at the end of the month. So that's one component, right? Affordability is a really big thing for us that we tend to lead in. Beyond this, performance is another big thing, right? When you're building a DApp, I mean, no matter how affordable it is, if it's like not working for you in terms of performance, then that's not great. So you also want something that meets expectations of performance, which we have extremely low latency in most regions. We don't even rate limit the vast majority of our chains, which I think that just says something about like, you can really push these nodes to their limits and get the most out of them. And to go with this performance, we're very flexible, right? When you're spinning up a node on Chainstack, for example, right, you can choose everything down to the cloud provider that you're deploying it on, right? So like, let's say you want to deploy a node on Microsoft Azure in London, or maybe you want to do it on Google Cloud in Singapore, or Chainstack Cloud in Ashburn, right? You can do that, and it's all extremely customizable. It's like 100% transparent in terms of what provider, how this node is being deployed. Is it dedicated? Is it elastic? Is it archival? Is it full? I mean, whatever it may be, it's all very flexible, which adds to the performance piece, right? Having a node that's on a cloud provider that works for you that's in a location that works for you adds a lot to the performance of the app. And on top of this, it's all affordable at the same time. These three things have been huge for us. And now that we've nailed these three things down in terms of base infrastructure, we want to not only provide these things for developers, right? Provide reliable and high quality infrastructure across not only nodes, but also things like subgraphs and IPFS. But we also want to generally be a platform that developers can go to and get their nodes, get the subgraphs that they need, do IPFS hosting, and then get something like a Covalent API. And all these things put together, what we're hoping, creates an environment for developers to create applications unbounded by traditional chains that might be present within other infrastructure solutions. So that's what we're really focusing on within our tech stack.
Awesome. Those three things that you mentioned, I can testify that they are very, very important for developers. Absolutely, 100%. So you guys integrated subgraphs as well. And I think I saw like a tweet that you made recently where you gave a little demo.
Yeah, so generally with like subgraph technology, it's pretty interesting. We actually released a big press release recently. Like Cointelegraph even made an article on this. So the graph's current centralized hosted service, which is what most people use at the moment, is being deprecated. So they're actually removing it and completely disabling it at some point in the near future. Chainstack is providing an alternative to that, right, for Chainstack or subgraph developers to migrate to. That is very high performance. This is a hosted subgraph service. It's high performance. It's very reliable. So essentially what you can do is, I did post a thread about this, kind of running through the process of building a subgraph and deploying it. But similar to Covalent, subgraphs are a fantastic technology for data indexing and collecting data. It's not as easy to use as Covalent in terms of you have to like write queries and set up a big subgraph. So of course Covalent is a little bit friendlier in terms of like the way that you access data. But subgraphs are a really great job at, they do a great job at being very bespoke to exactly what you need, right? So you create it yourself. You write the schemas and the manifest files, right? And you know what method you're looking for. You deploy it and you're listening to certain contracts or whatever you want to do, right? And then you take that code, the subgraph that you're building, and then you can deploy that to Chainstack, and it's hosted on Chainstack. Right now we do this across, in terms of our Elastic indexers, we do this across Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and Polygon. And that'll keep it up to sync with the blockchain. It'll be very reliable in that regard, and it'll be extremely fast and high performance on our hosted service. So the opportunity that this opens up for developers is that they can, for very specific data indexing needs, they can spin up a subgraph in less than 20 minutes, depending on how complicated it is and the data that they're gathering, and very quickly have reliable and fast access to incredibly detailed Web3 data. So like, for example, the thread that I made was about indexing Bored Ape Yacht Club, right? And I think in total it probably took me about 20 minutes from zero, from having nothing installed or anything, to creating an indexer for that, a subgraph, deploying it to Chainstack, and querying it within my application. And then I had a great collection of data for that. So just, when you're a developer, there's a few solutions that can really empower your application, right? At a base level, it's node infrastructure. That's what essentially connects you to the blockchain itself, right? So that needs to be nailed down first. And then once you have that nailed down, you want to understand things like data indexing, right? So maybe you need a subgraph for that, or maybe you need Covalent for that, right? Maybe you need to grab the token balances. You need something easy that you can do in one call, and that's where you use Covalent. So we want to have a variety of services that can help developers solve their problems and achieve new use cases, which is kind of why we've taken this direction with both subgraphs and our marketplace integrations.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. The next question I have is like, as a developer, and if I want to try out the Chainstack platform, are there any grants and opportunities available for builders? Like, do you guys have your own hackathons or like, any programs out there?
Every once in a while, we'll do a hackathon or we'll participate in something like that. Right now, I don't have any official like grants or anything or any like financial opportunities, but what we do is, if you're an individual developer that wants to get started with Chainstack, and you want to build an application and you just want to try the Chainstack platform out, right? Then you can go to Chainstack and we actually offer a free developer tier where you can get a node across any of our 23 different networks completely for free, with 3 million monthly requests included. And then it's very cheap. You can go from
Nice.
there to like $50 a month, which you get more nodes, you have more capability and stuff like that. And if you want to, if you're like a white hat hacker as well, we do some bug bounty programs, where we pay developers to contribute to that as well. But generally speaking, really the biggest opportunity that we're providing in terms of just like an easy access point is this very smooth sort of curve of pricing, right? So if you're
Mm.
a developer that just wants to like very quickly try a node, you can do so for no charge at all. Then if you're maybe a more advanced developer, you can do so for as little as $50 a month, and that just steps up as you get, as your needs grow. So it scales with you.
Mm. Now we've got around 10 minutes left, so maybe I could give everyone just a quick demo of the Covalent API, and then maybe Ethan, if you're up for it, could you give everyone like how to access the Covalent API through the Chainstack marketplace? Like just a quick like walkthrough for something visual for everyone to follow along if they're just sitting at home watching this ambiently. So here we have our API documentation. These are the kinds of data that we provide. I'm just going to zoom in so you can see it better. We have Class A endpoints, Class B endpoints, as well as Class C endpoints. So our Class A endpoints are kind of like our staple offering. Like this is a very popular endpoint where you get token balances. You just supply one address. Uh, you can even supply like a ENS as well, right? And then you get the token balances for the address. We've got NFT data, lots of different kinds of NFT data that you can get. You can get, you know, single NFT, you can get all the contract metadata, you can get all the trade summary. You can also get data for ownership of NFT. We've got a very robust series of transaction endpoints, again, for all kinds of ways in which you need them. Here, you get all the transactions for a particular address. Here, you get all the recent 100 transactions. You can get all the transactions in a particular block or block range. And also, this endpoint gives you very specific um, kind of like ability to pinpoint which time period you want to get transaction for. So that's very useful for certain use cases. We even have Aave data as well as balancer data and all these protocol specific data under our Class C endpoints. I'm just going to show you certain things that you can build with it. If you click under Unified API, click Guides. We've got lots of guides that show you what you can build with it. For instance, like this wallet, right? This kind of screen is built using one API call using a balances endpoint. You can get curve data, specifically like all your curve rewards and LP tokens using one API call. You can get all the liquidity pools on curve and um, all the protocols that we support using one API call. This entire component is built using one API call, right? You see the ETH, STETH pool along with the amount of tokens within that pool, as well as we calculated the value for you as well, the supply APY and TVL. You can find out what your approvals are for your wallet and revoke them if necessary. And yeah, all kinds of use cases. And this is the meat, right? This is the our main product. You get very rich data. You have it in very user-friendly formats. All you're doing is to, do minimal cleanup on your front end or on your client side, code, and you get to render the data or use it in whatever ways that you want. So, again, API key is free to try out. Go ahead, read all the guides, clone the repo, get started, get your hands dirty, play around, and let us know how you find it.
I mean, first of all, I just got to say real quick, the opportunities that Covalent opens up with the depth of that API is huge. And I've spent some time over the past few weeks as we have gone through integrating this in our platform. I spent some time with the API and messing around with it,
Mm,
and it opens up a huge amount of opportunities for developers. It not only allows developers
100%.
to enhance applications But it even opens up like new doors for the types of things that you can build, right? Like I
Yeah.
was in a developer community the other day and learn Web3 DAO, and somebody asked, "How do I get um, token all of the token balances of an account of an address with RPC calls?" I was like,
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, it's really difficult to do that with RPC calls. It's like you'd have to do some very clever work with that. And I told him straight up, I was like, you can do this in one call with the Covalent API, right? And I think
Yeah.
these types of things, which solving these problems for developers, is really huge, which is, of course, the thinking behind why we decided to implement this in our marketplace. So right
100%.
now I'm on my Chainstack dashboard, just on my personal account here. This is actually what I use. I use Chainstack to run my own personal project. So this is that account. So you can see here on the side I have projects with, these are all my nodes, subgraphs, IPFS, and then down here we have marketplace. Right now within our marketplace we just have two main applications, but of course we're going to be focusing on Covalent. So we click on this. I've already purchased this, but you'll open this and you'll see the screen basically just running through what Covalent offers. The pricing for this is about $50 a month is what you'll pay, and you'll get that premium package for Covalent. You can even click on here to see about the vendor, the pricing, and the different chains you can use with it. This is just like basically a direct port of what Covalent offers. So now once you've purchased it, which I did on this account, you can get access to this screen, which will allow you to generate an API key. So you click on this, type in the name of it, whatever you want. You'll click next and it'll give you a key to use. Then you can take that key and use it to grab the JSON web token, right? So you'll do this curl request, it'll give you a JSON web token, and you define that as a constant in your project, and you can send requests to the Covalent API with the JSON web token that's issued to you with the API key that you generate here. So, I mean, really it takes just like 10 clicks, right? To go from, here's my nodes, here's a marketplace, and here's my, Covalent compatibility, just a few seconds to integrate this within your application. So, like I mentioned earlier, this is really the direction that we want to go into in terms of providing a suite of tools for developers, right? A place where you can get all of these fundamental services and then go here and generate your key per Covalent and then start using that in your application. So it's very simple to start using, very easy, completely integrated within the Chainstack platform. It's all billed to the same account that you have on here, so you don't have to manage separate accounts or anything. And it's very transparent in terms of how that works. So yeah, super simple, very easy setup process, and a really great opportunity for developers to just within a few clicks, if you're already using Chainstack or if you want to use Chainstack, get full access to Covalent through that method.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this quick walkthrough, Ethan. I always found that the Chainstack platform looks really clean and neat. Your front end team did a really good job there. And
Appreciate it.
yeah, to all the our common developer community, I hope that you would, give Chainstack a try and then give Covalent a try. I think together we have probably supplied a very robust and performance suite of data tooling as well as node service for you to, really focus on building out that next level Web3 product, right? Yeah, any parting words for our developer community, Ethan?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you having me. Like I said a few times, but the opportunities for developers here, in using Covalent and using the solutions that Covalent is providing, along with these high quality node services that we've been working on, are huge. I mean, this really what we're positioning this to be is the full back end of your application, right? This is what
Yeah.
enables developers to create exciting solutions. So if you'd like to give it a try, if you'd like to give the Covalent API a try on Chainstack, as well as our various node services and whatnot, you can do so for free. You can start on Chainstack for free at chainstack.com. And then you can start using Covalent on Chainstack for about $50. You can also follow us on Twitter at ChainstackHQ. We run a ton of Twitter spaces. We post some really great content every week. And you can also follow me at Tabasco Web3. I also do various tutorials and stuff like subgraphs, and we even have some really great Covalent content talking about using the API through Chainstack. So a lot of exciting possibilities for developers here, and we're really just pumped to see how developers will start leveraging this in the future to build cool Web3 applications.
Once again, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. And thank you so much, Ethan. I learned a lot today about the Chainstack platform from you. Check it out and also try out Covalent API through the Chainstack platform today. And follow us on Twitter and catch you guys soon.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.